Recording in progress. All right, welcome back. We are TongLen Practice Group. This is November 16th, 2025. I think this is our fourth session. Is that right? I'm only a little bit behind. So I thought we would do our meditation first this time. So we'll do our usual opening prayers and then preliminaries swiftly. And then we'll again use someone we love. So maybe when you're deciding on the person at the beginning of class, you can use the same one that you're going to TongLen. All right, so let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about karma and emptiness, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention, turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet, to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please, please, please teach me that. Show me that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, in the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened. To the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every single other. So now turn your mind to your body to settle it in for meditation. Go through your usual routine. Come to rest your mind on those sensations of breath at the nostrils. Using those sensations to fine-tune your focus, your clarity, your intensity. Now intentionally shift your focus again to that holy being. Recall what they have taught you about the nature of our experiences, the nature of ourselves, the nature of others. And grow your feeling of refuge in them. We just said it in words. Try to pinpoint how they actually can and do protect you, how they don't and how they do. Think of how that refuge has helped you so far. And grow the wish that everyone could know. And think of that precious holy being again. Think of just one of their many amazing qualities. Feel your admiration and your aspiration to grow that quality in yourself. Tell them of your willingness to try. Ask them to help you try. And again, of course, they agree. And our gratitude arises. And we want to offer them something wonderful out of gratitude and out of request that they show you something deeper, something more. And so think of something you might offer. Of course, what they like best is to be aware of you being aware, of telling them something from your behavior that you did, especially because they taught you something. feel a little healthy pride. And see how happy they are with you. And we feel so safe with them that we're ready to tell them of some negativity that we're holding in our heart. Something recent where you know those seeds, when they ripen, will be unpleasant for you and very likely to influence you in such a way to perpetuate that negativity. Tell them about that situation. And again, review your refuge, your regret. Establish an antidote power and a power of restraint. We'll sit 2 minutes to give us time to do that. Now fill that space with rejoicing. Tell them of some kindness you saw someone else do. Tell them of another kindness you did. And even tell them something good about somebody you don't care for so much. And recognize all this goodness that we see and that we're able to do is because this precious being has taught us and guided us and encouraged us. And so we ask them, please stay close. Please come to help me, even in the form of beings that look ordinary. Please continue to guide me and teach me. And then dedicate just what we've done so far to growing the bodhicitta, both kinds, that our TongLen practice is helping us grow. And you can turn your attention to your physical body, check to see if it needs some adjusting. Get it reset, then settle back in, bringing your attention back to the breath. Checking your clarity. Turning up the fascination. And intentionally shift from the breath as the object to the TongLen practice, in which you turn your mind to that being that you love, that you care for so much, who's having some kind of difficult time. Bring them to mind clearly. Picture them wherever you believe they are right now. And imagine you can be there with them invisibly. Recognize their current distress. Identify it as best you can. The surface level and some of the deeper levels that you might perceive through other subtleties of their body language or ways in which you have known their behavior. Think of what they might be thinking about how to react to this situation, just based on if you were in their shoes, ignorantly, you might be considering how to react. recognizing that that will probably just plant more negative seeds for some other suffering. And so as you focus your growing compassion and love on them, your wish to help them, influences that flowing negativity within them, such that it turns and gathers towards the center of their chest. See those specific mental afflictions and thought patterns and belief systems and the seeds for more of them, like black, yucky strands or movements, gathering by the power of your concentrated wish to help them be free of this suffering. Find all of it within them. Until you see it as this tight little ball of black yuck there in the middle of their chest. Identify it again. And then make your determination to use your breath to take it from them. And shift your focus then to your out breath as it flows out your nostrils. It pauses as you inhale. And it goes out a little further with the next exhale. Until it reaches close enough to their nostrils that their inhale helps draw it in. Your exhales continue to send it forth. As it goes in, around, and down. Down to hook into that black ball of goo. And when you have it well hooked, you shift your focus of attention from the exhale to the inhale. And again, identify what that black ball of goo is. And as you inhale, your love, your compassion is pulling that black goo up through their chest, through their throat, around and out their nostrils. Drawing it towards yourself slowly. Remembering what it's made of. Feeling your love for them. Your compassion. Until you have that black ball of their suffering hovering beneath your own nostrils. Then you leave it there and look into your own chest, where we see that tiny little flame of our own misunderstanding, our belief in our self-existent me and the selfishness that comes out of it. We think there's a connection between my ignorance and my selfishness and that black ball of goo that is their suffering. And so I determine that I will use the black ball of their suffering to destroy my ignorance and selfishness, driven by my love and compassion for them. And so we prepare. Don't do it yet, but you'll prepare with that nice, long, smooth, easy exhale. And then on its inhale, you slowly pull that black ball of goo in, down in slow motion, watching where the edge of the black goo touches the tip of the flame. You'll see the brilliant flash. It'll go out. There'll be a wisp of smoke. The smoke will disappear, and you'll breathe normally as you enjoy the absence of that suffering and that flame. So get your picture back. The black ball of their suffering at your nostrils. And then with the next nice long exhale, you do your taking. And you're resting in that absence, that freedom. And then stir forth out of that to become again aware of your friend across from you. You see them being so relieved, so confident that they can handle this situation in a different way, a new way occurs to them. They're even eager to handle it. They feel so happy. And so let yourself feel happy for them feeling happy. And then bring your invisible self back to this room and this class. Dedicate what we've done to the power of your growing bodhicitta, so that it can color your mind as you interact with others. And then become aware of your body in your chair and in your room. And when you're ready, open your eyes, take a stretch. It's a pretty simple practice, isn't it? You know, not a lot of complicated visualizations. We enrich it with the more we think about the mental affliction and like all the correlations we know about mental afflictions, but we don't want to get sidetracked with identifying all the black goo, right? Keep it simple. Same with what's the flame. Clearly identify it, but don't get distracted. And then really see the two touch and boom, and then gone. It's an important little teeny piece to let it be gone. It's a it's a it's an opportunity, yeah, for something special to happen. So far we've only been doing the taking part. We're getting ready to add the giving. It's coming soon. But it's almost like, really, isn't the taking enough? And you could make a case for that's really all they need. But how much fun it'll be to give them all kinds of wonderful things, which, we'll see. It's going to include wisdom, which, why are we going to do that? I'll give you a clue. It's why we're doing TongLen, because we are planting seeds by TongLen, which means that's how it works. not, oh, it doesn't work. All we're doing is planting seeds. It's like, no, that's how it works. That's how anything works. Nothing works in any other way than that. Yeah, but we think, oh no, I should be doing something for them. I should be giving them Tylenol to take their fever away. And it's like, fine, give them Tylenol. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Because it'll depend on their seeds and my seeds. So if I'm aware that as I give them the Tylenol, I am planting seeds, okay, and that's why I'm giving them Tylenol, it helps future giving Tylenol to work better. Okay, so yeah, lost my place. Okay, so this version of TongLen comes to us from the Lama Chupa prayer, the offering to the Lamas prayer that was written by His Holiness the First Panchen Lama Lobsang Chuki Geltsen. I think I remember describing that to us before. To say this version of TongLen implies that there are other versions of TongLen, and there are. Lord Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha teaches us a TongLen. I haven't learned it, so I don't know how it's all that different. Master Shantideva teaches a TongLen, right? In the sense of the practices of exchanging self and other. And then in Diamond Way, there's TongLen practices as well. But this one, the one that's brought to us by in the Lama Chupa, is apparently the one that's most well known, most used in the Tibetan tradition. Well, Tibetan Kalpa, as far as I know. And in our direct lineage in particular, it's felt to be such an important prayer, set of verses, that it is often used as the practice to celebrate the angel in those 2 special moon days a month, which is really saying something extraordinary, that, you know, on the most sacred days where you're to do the most sacred thing, you use this prayer, the Lama Chupa, because it's a prayer about Lama devotion in which the verses take us through these beautiful making offerings to the holy being, going through our confession, and then requesting blessings. And the blessings, when we learn that practice, are requesting each of the blessings of the different lums, right, of the lumrim, from meeting our lama and having a good relationship with them all the way up to the final stages of the transformation. So it's all in this one beautiful prayer. And within this prayer, there are a series of verses that are about the stages of us growing our mind from Hinayana to Mahayana, about growing that wishing bodhicitta into acting bodhicitta, into experiential bodhicitta. And the tool that he gives us for growing that experiential bodhicitta is this practice of TongLen, that he then finally calls use the machine of the breath to practice this taking and giving. So I'm going to read the series of verses that build up our TongLen practice. I'm having trouble with my Adobe Acrobat on my computer, so I can't put them up there to show them to you. That was my intention. So I can just read them, so listen. Actually, before I do, I'm supposed to share the lineage. So Smati and I received the oral transmission of this prayer from Geshe Lotar, who is Ken Rinpoche Losang Tarchin's nephew. So Ken Rinpoche is Geshe Michael's root lama. So the nephew of Geshe-la's root lama is who came and gave us the oral transmission in Tibetan, of course. And then a few years later, we reached our Diamond Way Course 18 culmination, right, of our 6-7 years of training. And it's Geshe-la's commentary on this text, Lama Chupa. So it's like the final teaching we get. So since then, right, he's offered it as part of the Jorshu, of people's daily practice, that you're welcome to use it. But if you've noticed, he's never actually taught it. He gave an oral transmission, no doubt. We didn't get his because we were in retreat. But people have it available, but without any actual commentary on it. So anyway, here in the TongLen module that he gave in, I don't know, 98 or 99, he's using that prayer before, right? Before it's known, before anybody knows it's this secret practice that's available open, or an open practice that's used secretly. I'm not sure which. He's using it. He's planting these seeds when he's teaching TongLen for people to have the seeds of connection to the Lama Chupa, which, came about 8 years later, right? Close to 10 years later for some. So anyway, here we are. We're in the section requesting blessings. We're partway in. We're in the place where we're requesting the blessings to be able to shift from our Hinayana aspiration. I recognize my suffering. I recognize how I perpetuate it. I'm sick to death of it. I want to stop it all. I want to reach nirvana. We're not saying those words, but that's what the verses are talking about. And then he shifts. Like we culminate in that one, and then you'll see the shift. So here's the culmination of, I am sick and tired of my own suffering. I'll do anything I can to make it stop. All right. Bless me. So we're talking to the Holy Lama. Bless me to relinquish the vision of the unbearable prison of this cycle as a garden of earthly delights. Bless me to find the treasure of the jewels of the realized, all three of the higher trainings. Bless me to take up the banner of the highest victory, the victory of freedom. Next verse. Bless me to contemplate how each of these tortured beings has been my very own mother and paid me every form of kindness over and over again. Bless me to develop a sincere compassion for each of them, a love like a mother for a child in pain. Right? One verse about those 7 cause and effect method of growing our bodhicitta. Bless me to develop joy in the happiness of others, recognizing that both myself and others are in no way different. None of us wants even the slightest form of suffering. None of us ever feels as if we have enough happiness. Bless me to see that this chronic disease of taking care of myself is the road to all of the misery this very act seeks to avoid. Bless me to put the blame where it really lies and reach a bitter hatred for it. Bless me to destroy the mighty devil of my tendency to watch out only for myself. Bless me to see that cherishing all these mother beings and the wish to see them all reach every form of happiness is the door that leads to infinite numbers of perfect personal qualities. Bless me then to love them all more than my own life, even if every one of them should suddenly think me their enemy. Bless me then to reach the ability to see myself and others as equal, and to exchange them for myself, in a state of mind to sum it all up where I finally grasp the difference. The problems that come from acting as infants do, thinking only of themselves, and the good that comes from acting as the lords of the able do, thinking only of what others need. Cherishing myself is the door to every trouble that there is. Cherishing my mothers is the foundation of every quality I could have. Bless me then that this deep practice of exchanging my others for myself might become the very heart of my daily practice. And so bless me, my holy Lama, bless me, Lama of compassion, that every living being there is may find every kind of happiness. Let all the evil deeds and obstacles, let all the pain that ever comes to every living being, everyone my own mother, come and ripen upon myself, ripen upon me now. And let any goodness I ever do and all my happiness be sent away to others. So that's the actual TongLen verse. This world and every being who lives upon this world are filled with the results of every wrong ever done. Let a shower of suffering fall of things I never wanted. Bless me to see it all as a way that all the fruits of my own bad deeds might finally be exhausted. Bless me to learn to turn every problem that ever comes to me into a path that takes me further. In brief, bless me that I learn to change everything that appears to me, whether it be good or bad, into a path for increasing the two forms of the wish for enlightenment through practicing the five powers, the essence of all the Dharma there is, and experience then only joy. Bless me that I may learn the skillful means of all four practices, where I turn everything that I ever encounter from hour to hour into something for me to meditate upon. Bless me that I bring great meaning to this life of leisure and fortune, using the teachings to practice developing the good heart, all the various commitments and the different kinds of trainings. Bless me to use the mystic machine of giving and taking, riding on the breath, love and compassion, and the willingness to free all beings myself, to practice that one thought, the wish for enlightenment, to free every living being from this vast sea of suffering. And it goes on, right? I'm going to stop there and go back and look at some of these verses just to clarify how they build into our TongLen practice. The verse about pointing out that nobody has enough happiness and everybody has suffering. Like everybody doesn't want suffering and everybody wants more happiness. Like we recognize that in ourselves. That's what put us onto the path to wanting nirvana, right? I want to free my suffering. I want to be happy. And then when we recognize that that's true of everybody, not just every human, but every being, if we've recognized there's a way that I can stop my suffering and we care about somebody else, then, right, we're asking, Holy Lama, please bless me so that I can turn this drive to stop my own suffering to include others in it. Mm. When we're able to turn our mind in that way, our habit of begrudging other people's successes or happiness, right? It becomes glaring that we do it to begin with. And then we recognize what a mistake that is because we're aware of how that's just perpetuating our own seeing ourselves as not having the happiness that we want. One of the verse calls it this chronic disease of taking care of myself, and how that's the cause of all the pain I personally feel and all the pain that I even see in my world. And at our early level of that, we may think, well, my suffering causes the pain I experience, and their suffering causes the pain they experience, and that's true. But my selfishness causes the pain that I see them experiencing as well, right? As our wisdom is growing, we're understanding better and better that there's nothing we can experience that's not coming out of our seeds, even the mental afflictions and the seeds for more that we perceive or think we perceive that another person is having. Right? We can't perceive another person's mind, but we can very well perceive their suffering, okay, as our own seeds ripening. Geshe-la calls it watching out for number one. Watching out for number one first, technically at all, but let's just say first, is the cause of every distress that we've ever had. You know, and it's like human nature would say, no, if I don't look out for number one, nobody else is. I won't survive. Hey, and it's a mistaken view. It may be true that if we quit cold turkey looking after number one, and we think that that means, okay, so I go live out under a bridge in the dead of winter in Wisconsin, I'm probably not going to survive that. And so, you know, that me might think, I think I made a mistake there. And we would have, because we would have wasted an opportunity. But that does not say then, see, I have to continue to look out for number one in order to protect my own life. Because when I look out for number one first, then I'm willing to harm somebody else to protect this one. And that would be what would make the seeds that would force me to experience the dead of a Wisconsin winter as dangerous, because there are beings for which that is not the least bit dangerous. Like, I don't know, snow rabbits, hedgehogs, they all survive very well those awful Wisconsin winters. And they don't have warm houses, heated houses. Maybe they do. Anyway, you get my point. So when we recognize that my own TongLen, self-grasping, self-cherishing, self-grasping means I believe I have a me in me, independent of anything else. And it's like, no, I don't. The me depended upon, my parents giving me this body. I depend on a lot of things. Right. This existing thing, depend on other stuff. We're still thinking that there's a me that's independent of the things we depend upon, so that we can depend upon them, which is misunderstanding what it means to depend upon something. So this self-existent me, we call it, that with highest view says a me that exists independent of the seed ripening happening moment by moment. Right? There is no me who's doing the projection. There is a me with every projection ripening. But then every projection ripening is a little bit different, right? So, will the real me please stand up? There isn't one. It doesn't make subject side me disappear. It makes the one I thought I needed to protect and hold on to and take care of, and that one disappears. But the one that's there in every seed continues. Hopefully a little wiser. So taking care of others, this series of verses reminds us that taking care of others is what brings about every good thing that can happen to us. And again, we kind of argue, wait a minute, I've taken care of others and they've been nasty to me. That can't be, right? You can't be telling me the truth, Your Holiness, because it doesn't always work like that. And, his answer would be, yes, it does, actually, because if somebody can be nasty to you after you've done something kind for them, it's a ripening result of you having been nasty to somebody after they were kind to you. Have you ever done that? Oops, right? So he'll say, your argument just proves my point, which is always fun when they do that, because you got to go back and go, wait, what? I thought I had a good argument there. And they go, it was good in the wrong way. So he goes on to say, when we shift that thinking from it doesn't always make me happy to take care of others, to recognizing, no, that is the source of happiness. There's just that time delay. Then we recognize that, oh my gosh, others and our interaction with them is the door to all happiness that we could ever experience. How we interact with them now creates the imprint in our mind that creates our future experience with others. So even if it does seem like I can be kind to them and they can be nasty back, there will be a finite number of instances when that can happen if and when we stop being nasty to anybody else for any other reason. Right? We use up, burn off, damage our seeds for someone being nasty to us, then it cannot happen. Even if the other person sets out to be nasty to us from their side, they're trying so hard and they just right? They can't upset you because you don't have to have the seeds to see that what they're doing is something not right, right? The demons send arrows at Lord Buddha and he sees flowers. You know, I don't know what the demons saw. Arrows going right through him, or I don't know. There's some movie. What movie is that? Stardust. Stardust is a great Dharma movie. It's old now, but it's got some great images that I found helpful in my Diamond Way visualization. And there's one scene where the witch lady she's trying so hard to hit somebody, and the other witch lady has cast a spell on her, and she can't touch the other one, even though the other one's standing right there. And it's this scene where she's just going, but she never contacts the person, and she's getting madder and madder, right? But you know, it's not the example I want, because it's not out of the other witch's goodness that she did that, right? But it would be the result of her past goodness that she's not able to get hit because she casts a spell on this other lady. Anyway, it's the image I'm getting at. I can see it in my mind, you know, trying so hard to do something and it's ineffective. Same. When our seeds are such that we cannot experience being harmed, it doesn't matter what's going on around us. Can't be perceived as harmfulness. How do we make those seeds? Take care of our mothers, right? All beings as mother. How can I help? How can I be kind? Okay, how can I help you have just a little squeeze of happiness, more happiness than you have now, even worldly happiness? Okay, I've yacked through our break. Let's take our break. So Geshe-la shared that as we do our purification work, do our gathering goodness work, do our growing our bodhicitta work, use our TongLen regularly, that our goodness will be growing. And it's very likely that the other beings in our world will notice, and some of them very well might take some kind of offense at your growing happiness, right? People can get jealous. People can misunderstand, and they can have apparently bad reactions to what seems to us. It's like, I'm just getting more and more kind. How can they be upset with me? And it could even manifest not so much by people's bad reaction or unpleasant reaction to us. That could ripen in some way that we ourselves have like some event that sort of pops our bubble, in the sense that our goodness is growing, 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 and we reach some kind of level in which it's like the goo at the bottom of the pot. We thought we had it all stirred out, but there's still the burnt on stuff, you know, and now our goodness has even stirred that up, and up can bubble up something really nasty. And it's tough, because if we don't recognize that, oh my gosh, I must have been on the cusp of something extraordinary, that this blow up has happened, and to react to the blow up wisely, knowing that when it all settles, we will have made more progress than we would have if the blow up didn't happen. So it's similar to what we learned about in Diamond Cutter's Sutra, right? Study this sutra, you're going to suffer, because the virtue of doing it is purifying yuck. As we're making progress in our bodhicitta, we can reach a point where something similar can happen. Geshe tells us to help us so that when we find ourselves in that position, the tendency would be doubt, right? Oh, these practices aren't working, or I'm not good enough after all, or, if people are going to be like that, right, I'm not going to do it, right? There are any number of ordinary me reactions that could take this situation that could launch me, and instead, right, I could lose something precious. So he just warns us, not in the sense that it absolutely has to happen to everybody, but in the sense that it's very common that it seems like we're on a roll and everything's going really well, and then all of a sudden, right, our best friend explodes on us in some way. And right, don't lose where we were at when the explosion happened, because it's not that it's a test, it's just a stirring forth of old selfishness, and it's an opportunity to purify and make merit, right? So Panchen Lama is pointing that out too. As we're growing our wish, and our wish is getting bigger and bigger, and I'm loving everybody, even if they all turn on me, right, and suddenly call me the enemy, may my reaction to them be, how can I help you? Right? Hard. It's going to be hard, probably. He then talks specifically about exchanging self and others. And he had that verse about the babies versus the enlightened beings. Remember that one? Come and see the difference. I love that phrase, where he's pointing out how Chiva, meaning immature ones, infants, think only of themselves, and how the Buddhas, like, they don't even seem to have a self to think of. Like, they certainly don't have an ignorant self to think of. They do have a subject side, but they're constantly engaged in helping, right? Their emanations are serving all of us constantly. So, do we want to stay the 2-year-old version, or do we want to become the Buddha version of this thing, right? Of this thing. The 2-year-old isn't capable of thinking of anybody else first. They are in survival mode. A Buddha, right, has completely overcome that, as we know. Bodhicitta is the doorway to that shift from 2-year-old me to Buddha me. And as we're learning, TongLen practice is the key to opening that bodhicitta door. Right? Okay. Panchen Lama talks about exchanging self and others as the method for TongLening. And it's like, we don't actually do that in the TongLen visualization. We don't think, oh, I'm going to put myself in their body. We don't do that. But the result of this high level care and concern, and the focusing on their pain and suffering, and really trying to identify, what is that emotion that they're having? What is it based on? Where did it come from? Where do I think? It really does involve a certain amount of applying their distress to myself to figure out how would I be reacting in that way, to have a sense of what it is I'm going to take from them. So we are using the distress that we see in them to help clarify our own mental afflictions. So in a way, we really are expanding ourselves to include them, and then wanting to take their suffering away based on how it really is my own suffering. Right? To see suffering in another is painful. To see happiness in another helps us be happy. That's what we're trying to get to, that mindset. So although we don't specifically say, now exchange yourself or expand yourself to include them, the TongLen practice is an expanding self to include others type of practice. Right? It's like the ability to expand ourselves to include others grows as we TongLen without having to expressly do it. Because our care and consideration for them grows because of the seeds we're planting by doing our TongLen, right? Not by the TongLen, but by the seeds we're planting by doing the TongLen. Then that's an important piece. Oh, I'm going to use my breath to take away somebody's suffering. No, that doesn't work. But I'm going to use my breath to take away their suffering, to plant seeds so that I cannot see suffering in them ever again. That works. Does it work in the moment? No, neither one works in the moment. Okay. All right. So you'll see in your reading the verse that is that Geshe calls it the TongLen mantra. It's that verse that said, and so bless me, my holy Lama, bless me, Lama of compassion, that every living being there is may find every kind of happiness. Let all the evil deeds and obstacles, let all the pain that ever comes to every living being, every one of them, my mother, come and ripen upon myself, ripen upon me now. Do we mean it? We'll talk about it. And let any goodness I ever do and all my happiness be sent away to others. So Geshe suggested that we memorize this verse and mutter it, right, throughout our day, because the saying these words is a vibration that, what was that word? Harmonic resonances with our subtle body winds upon which rides our mind. So these words will vibrate in our subtle body in such a way that will direct you towards Diamond Way, towards direct use of the subtle body someday for something similar but faster. Is there anything in the words that can do that? No. Could you mutter abracadabra all day long and get the same result? Theoretically. But, right, these words have been used by others, right? They have been used by others to trigger the bodhicitta, that triggers the bodhicitta wisdom, that triggers the path to Buddhahood, because it triggers, right, our love. It grows our love. It grows our willingness to stop others' pain. Now we haven't yet talked exactly about how that works and how it doesn't work, but we're all well trained enough in karma and emptiness to understand that we cannot take anybody's karma. We cannot give them happiness. The wish to do so, however, is so radical compared to our ordinary state of mind that the vibration of that wish, that intention, is so different than all of our ordinarily planted seeds that it removes some power from our selfishness and ignorance that's in all the seeds that we have in our storehouse consciousness that we don't really have, but we have. So just to say, right, and to try to mean, yes, I want to take everybody's pain. Yes, I want to give them all happiness, is a powerful, powerful goodness. And then as we understand that any pain I can see in my world is my ripening seeds, right? I don't know exactly how they're experiencing it, but what I witness is my seeds ripening. So I really can stop the suffering I see in my world if I can change my seeds. If I have no more see suffering in others' seeds, I won't be able to see suffering in others. There won't be suffering in others. And and our minds go, right, for you. But what about for them? But what them is there other than my seeds ripening? Right? It pushes the bar of our understanding of emptiness and dependent origination. When there's anything that exists that our projection lands onto, that has its own nature so that my projection can land onto it, we are not highest middle way. Right? Doesn't mean we can't get there from there. But because nothing and no one, including myself, has any nature of its own, anything I witness in my world is my seeds ripening. And so I am personally responsible, which means the only way I can stop it all is to come to know directly what needs to be stopped and what needs to be taken up. That's the personal responsibility that flops over into I've got to reach Buddhahood to really do this. And so technically, even as we're doing TongLen, we can TongLen everything and anything. And eventually we're going to go, yeah, but I'm never going to be done TongLening until I reach Buddhahood, until I'm omniscient. And then they say, like it's the punchline 3 classes later, but it seems to come up now. As Buddha, me in Buddha paradise, I will still be TongLening. Buddha's TongLen. Like that's what they are. That's what they do. So it's like all of a sudden TongLen practice became a whole lot more powerful. Wait a minute. I'm starting my career now. It's probably experience different for a Buddha, no doubt. But they still TongLen. We're never going to stop TongLening. Beautiful, isn't it? Really? Okay. So I'll say it again. And so bless me, my holy Lama, bless me, Lama of compassion, that every living being there is may find every kind of happiness. So that's love. Let all the evil deeds and obstacles, let all the pain that ever comes to every living being, every one of them, my mother, come and ripen upon myself now, ripen upon me now. That's compassion. Let any goodness I ever do and all my happiness be sent away to others. That's love again. Right? So it seems like because we love, we're willing to take. And by taking away, they're like more available for us to give them the love can give them the benefit. Love can give them the happiness we wanted to give them at the beginning. That as long as they still have suffering, they are not going to be able to enjoy what it is that we're trying to give them. How are we doing? I have a half an hour yet. The scripture makes that promise. Ari Nagarjuna said the benefits of doing TongLen, right? It says using our air to say this verse changes our inner body, and then our health changes, and then our world changes. Like it starts subtle, it vibrates out further. How long is it gonna take? As long as it takes, right? We are purifying and making merit as we do TongLen. Yeah. So when that verse says, may all the pain and evil deeds and obstacles, may it all ripen on me now. And even though I think I understand what's happening with TongLen, when I hear myself say that, a part of my heart goes, eek, like eek, right? What am I really asking for? Eek. And if we can push through that and TongLen anyway, right? It's a huge goodness. Actually, probably more powerful than if we go, oh yeah, no sweat, right? I mean, that's powerful too, to be in that position. But don't be hard on yourself if you're thinking, I'm not sure I really want to do this. It's okay. It's recognizing that we have this self-cherishing, self-grasping flame still burning inside. And to be able to recognize that, right? And say, that's okay, it's the big mistake. I'm after it now. Rather than, oh man, I'm such an awful person. I'll never do this right. But rather take it as a challenge. Okay, I still have that inside, that fear that by wishing something bad to happen on myself, something bad could, right? By wishing I could take somebody's suffering away, can anything bad happen to me as a result of that? No, absolutely not. Do you see why? Because it's such a goodness to want to take pain from somebody. Even if I can't do it, to want to do it is such a goodness, you cannot get a bad result. Even if it seems like you get a bad result, you didn't get a bad result. Even if the more I TongLen, the worse my health got. It's like, it's not because you're TongLening. Well, maybe it is, but you're purifying. So it's not a bad thing, right? So it starts to touch on that idea. Can unpleasant things happen and it be a good thing? Yeah, it starts to get really slippery. It's like, what's that phrase? Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And that's true, but we're taking it a little bit further. We're saying, when something unpleasant happens, I've burnt off negative seeds, and by responding to it in a wise way, I've planted positive seeds, even if still negative seeds are ripening. Then the negative seeds ripening are in fact a good thing. And when I can get that connection, even as it's unpleasant, will I be suffering from it? No, can we have pain and think, good, great, let's get rid of this. Do you remember King of Kalinka's story? Right? He's getting his hands and fingers cut off, and he's just loving the king more and more. Thank you. Thank you. Like maybe he saw this was the last of his purification ever, and he was gonna, right, make some great leap as soon as it's all done. And do you remember the end of that story? We didn't get it in course 6. We got it in Lamrim later. That the yogi finally says, the king finally says to the yogi, if your name is Mr. Patience and it's been that for 500 lifetimes, prove it. And the guy goes, well, if it's true, he does this act of truth. It's coming if I ever get on. He says, if it's true that the more pain I have, the more I love the king, then may my limbs all reattach. Right? And his fingers and toes and hands, they all jump up and run and go right back onto the guy. And imagine the king. Oh my gosh, I've made a big mistake. And he becomes this great disciple. Yeah, because sometimes the worst ones make the greatest progress. So it's like, why did I tell that story? What was I saying? Our growing bodhicitta are doing TongLen, taking suffering from everybody and giving them all our happiness, is promising for us to get healthier, happier, our world to get better. And the seeds of our TongLen, when they ripen, will be that. But while we're waiting for those to ripen, all kinds of other stuff will be ripening because of the goodness of doing the TongLen stirs it forth. So it may be, I took on that TongLen practice and then, man, everything just got really, really hard. So I don't know about that TongLen practice. When in fact, if we understood, it would be like, wow, my TongLen practice was doggone potent. And it looked like I really was taking on the suffering of other beings. But you know what? Yikers. It hurt. It was hard. It was painful. But we could be at the level where it's like, as those hard things come up, we go, great. We know we're not really getting their pain into us. We know that we're stirring forth our own seeds, getting a chance to purify them. And we can be happy about it, right? Lojong takes us there. Be happy with the purifications. Be happy, being happy with the unpleasantnesses. It's hard, right? It's not something we can do by willpower. I'm going to decide to be really happy with my next migraine, right? You can't do it. But, right, we can be tonglening, giving. And then as we ourselves are experiencing these difficult situations, we can tonglen ourselves too. Trying to take suffering, visualizing taking suffering can only give a good result. How long before it ripens? I don't know. It has so many other factors. You want it to ripen faster? Rejoice that we did it, to water the seeds. Do it regularly in a stream. Do it towards powerful karmic objects, but not your Lama, right? So that being who is your holy being manifesting to you looking ordinary, if we tonglen them because they're manifesting kidney disease, it says to our own mind, I don't really believe that they are a fully enlightened being manifesting something for my benefit, right? We try to justify it, right? We can tonglen our future me seeing them in that situation. But don't TongLen that being who for you were saying is a fully enlightened being, seeing them having a problem that needs TongLening, right? How else can we make powerful karmic objects out of our TongLen object person? Recognize that that being was once upon a time our mother. Mothers are powerful karmic objects. So yes, TongLen, your mother in this lifetime. But anyone who needs TongLen, established somewhere along the way, oh, that being, that mind stream being, was my mother at some point, and it's still the same mind, not this, you know what I mean? It's the same mind stream that was my mother then, so it's still the mind stream that is my mother, right? She is my mother. Makes that nasty neighbor a powerful karmic object just by thinking of them in this way, right? So that would make our TongLen maybe the seeds be planted more powerfully, so maybe they'll ripen a little sooner. All these different tricks that we learned through our training, right? How to apply ourselves. All right. So again, can we take somebody else's karma? No. Can we do TongLen practice on someone with cancer and we ourselves end up getting a same kind of cancer that they now don't have anymore? Like, suppose we really do stop their cancer and we get it. Can that be because of our TongLen? No, right? Even though it may really look like it, like it's never happened to anybody I know who's TongLen, that somebody's cancer has gone from there into them. But is it possible that we could be doing TongLen as our regular daily practice and end up with cancer? Yes, of course. But it wouldn't be because we managed to heal all those cancer patients, right? Suppose that we did, but we wouldn't have, right? Even our TongLen's not going to cure their cancer if their cancer gets better. What did it? Our seeds shifted. So how do we shift our seeds? By doing TongLen. How'd their cancer end? By my seed shifting, right? You don't then say, oh, see, TongLen cures. It doesn't, it changes seeds. Okay, important piece. We'll go into it in greater detail. Last section of this part is the one of those verses said something like, and please bless me, my holy Lama, so that in this practice I'm able to use problems as the path, right? May everything that happened to me, both good and bad, may I use it to grow my my practice further. And he shared a story where apparently one time he inadvertently bought $1 million worth of diamonds that were the wrong thing for the order he was supposed to make. They turned out to be diamonds that were brown. So he got in big trouble. And I don't know, it took him a few days, he said, and he figured out that in the Arab market, they like brown diamonds to use in their dog collars. So he just took that $1 million worth of diamonds and made dog collars and put them on the market and made more money from that than they had anticipated making from the original order. right? They were now delayed. But anyway, he said he would often get accused of orchestrating a problem so that he could look like the, master who solved it. And he says, I swear I did not do that. That it's like, that's how life works. Problems happen. But because of this state of heart, where it's like, yeah, I'll just use problems as the path, the goodness allows a solution to arise that at least is a solution, maybe even a better one than that could happen even without the mistake being made. I think you get it. So then the last verse that has to do with this part of growing our bodhicitta was that verse about, bless me to use the mystic machine of the TongLen writing on the breath. And those are code words for things that we use when we reach completion stage practice that now, because of the Yoga Institute, everybody knows about it. So it's using the mind and the breath writing in tandem to work with our subtle body to draw those winds from the two side channels into the central channel and use that to push our minds into the direct perception of emptiness. So again, we're making a case for TongLen practice as a foundational practice for the future practices. It also is seed planting for those highest practices that will come sooner or later. All right, 7:47. I still have a little bit of time. So in the next section of the TongLen training, right, we're moving out of the Lama Chupa text and back to the explanations again. They ask, which should come first, the giving or the taking? And we already said TongLen, the words mean giving, taking, but we pointed out that Tibetan syntax is backwards. So maybe they really are thinking or relating to TongLen as meaning take and then give. But then it still is like, there still is the bit of a conundrum, because it's like, don't we have to care about somebody enough to recognize that they're even suffering? And isn't caring about somebody, on some level, a version of love? So don't we have to love them before we'll have compassion for them? And then once our compassion acts, then we can actually give them something that our initial love wanted to give, but couldn't give them because they were suffering so bad. So it is worth like looking at in the sense of, how does it even occur to us to TongLen somebody? If we're not TongLening everybody we come across, there's some we TongLen and some we don't. So Pabonka Rinpoche's liberation thrust in the palm of your hand, he addresses that. And he says, love is wanting to give happiness, wanting someone to be happy. He says, but you can't give somebody something in hopes that it will help them be happy if they're suffering in some way, if they're upset about something, if they're sick, if they're hurting. You wouldn't buy a new toy for your child who's burning up with fever. It wouldn't help them at all. First, you try to do something to relieve their distress. And once we manage to do that, then give them something that would help them be a little happier than they were before. So he says, no, compassion has to happen first. Like the action of compassion needs to happen first before anything that we do to give them happiness is going to be able to give any happiness. And then somebody else said, as I said before, it's like, yeah, but if you don't care enough about them to even notice that they're suffering, you're not going to want to take their suffering away. So you have to love them first on some level. So he doesn't argue with that. He says, right, if you love somebody, you want them to be happy, and you see that their suffering is in the way of their happiness, so you act to help their suffering. And then help them with their happiness. So he, in the end, agrees. In the reading, Geshe-la picked out various references to TongLening. And there is a kind of TongLen that we do on a single breath. And when we TongLen on a single breath, we actually send forth happiness on the exhale and suck in unhappiness on the inhale. And in that case, you give before you take, because we always want to end on the inhale. We want to start things on an exhale and end on an inhale to plant the seeds in our minds to do this subtle body thing that we were alluding to before. So single breath, TongLen, you give and then take. But in terms of an extended practice, which the benefit of an extended practice is like every instant you're taking to do this long exhale going towards them, like 64 per instant of I'm going to take their suffering away. I'm going to give them great happiness, right? You don't want it. You want as many seeds as you can make. So you don't want to rush it. You don't want to take so long that you get distracted. So you find that sweet spot, 10 minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes to identify their distress, 5-10 minutes to go in and hook it, then to destroy it, that only takes a minute. And then when we get to the giving, right, again, it'll be kind of long and drawn out because we want to be making all those seeds for our TongLen practice. So don't rush it when you have time. Right? When you don't have time and you're whizzing by them in your car, just blow it out, suck it in. All right. There's a section in your reading by someone named Nulcha Dharma Bhadra. He's a Lama of our lineage. Before Pabonka Rinpoche. And he's describing how that verse, bless me, my high holy Lama, bless me, Lama, compassion, that verse that Geshe-la said, memorize and use as a mantra. Nulcha Dharma Bhadra is making the case that those words, although written by First Panchen Lama and added to by his students, so the part that says, bless me, my high holy Lama, bless me of Lama of compassion, First Panchen Lama didn't write those lines. And the reason they say they know is because he's been using a certain meter in his verses, and this one's got too many syllables, too many lines in the meter. So they know it's been added to, and Nutradhamma is saying, there are conditions where Buddha said it's okay to add words to my words, and they can still be considered the words of a Buddha. So when we see a sutra and it says, once I heard this teaching, as in the Heart Sutra, it's like Buddha says, the one who writes that, it's as if it's words of the Buddha. And if we recall in the Heart Sutra, all Buddha ever says is lexo, lexo, lexo. Well said, well said, well said. Everything else is propelled through Avalokiteshvara and Sariputra, right? And yet the whole thing's called a sutra, the words of a Buddha. So they're making this case that this particular section of the Lama Chupa can be considered words of a Buddha. Like the words are so powerful that we can consider them the words of a Buddha. I'm not saying that Buddha ever said them directly, but there's this argument that in this same way that Buddha gave permission to use the words, the tradition has come to say that these words by His Holiness Lobsang Chukyi Gyaltsen are as if Lord Buddha gave them to us, which makes them qualify as mantra. That's the point. Mantra needs to be have given by a holy being and be being used by someone with great virtue. All right. Then Notre Dharma Bhadra, he says, and that the TongLen practice doesn't work in the way we think. We've already talked about that. And that understanding that it is a exchanging self and others, growing exchanging self and others practice is how it helps us grow our bodhicitta. So Geshe-la had explained that, as our TongLen gets more sophisticated, we can think of it as, here's this other person who's suffering, and we can expand ourself to include them, put the rope around them, and be thinking, okay, there's a part of me and here's a part of me. And this part of me sees that part suffering. And this part wants to do something to help that part in the same way that when you have a sticker in your foot, right? You take your hand and go help the foot. In that same way, this me wants to help that me. And even though we feel physically limited, physically separate, we can use the mental intention of thinking of their pain as our pain and decide we are going to take it on for that part of me, right? And give them happiness and pleasure. Again, then it's like, well, how does karma work then? Because you don't make karma towards yourself. And it's like, I don't have an answer for that. We'll like stop there. Actually, you can cook that one. The point being the willingness to take away suffering is the power of this practice because we cannot actually do it. The willingness changes our seeds so that in the end, we do actually do it. Got it? So remember that person we wanted to be able to help, and we did by TongLenning, on lenning at least on them. And that's a great, great goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please, please stay close, to continue to guide us and support us. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And then carry it with them right back into our hearts. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with happiness. And may it be so. All right. So thank you so much for the opportunity.